What's up, y'all? Sparty here. Now, as you guys can see, aside from the light bleed that this phone has, hold on. This is the LG V10. Now, don't worry, I'm not about to just say that screw the V30. I'm just about to just stick with the V10 and V20 or nothing like that. But I just want to tell you guys something here real quick. And keep in mind when I say real quick, I don't always necessarily end my points quickly. But the V30 should for me ship tomorrow and should be here within at least by Thursday or Friday. And it's released Sunday for everybody else. So basically, I got this phone for two exact reasons. One, I was helping my friend out because he actually wanted to sell this phone so that he can put money into, putting a down payment on the V30 as well and get it the day of as well. And another thing basically is so I can compare the V10 to the V20 and the V30. So I can compare all three of the phones together. From their unboxing experiences to what they offer to why each phone is still good to use even today and stuff like that. Especially the V10, since this is pretty much at the end of the month a 2-year-old phone and this is going to be a 1-year-old phone. So yeah. But some early differences between the V10 and the V20, since basically these are the two closest phones as far as what they offer. Both have removable batteries, both have secondary displays. One has dual cameras on the front, one has dual cameras on the back. They're pretty similar in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, one is better than the other, and one offers obviously more than the other does. But I guess right now I'll just do my quick comparison between the V10 and V20. One thing I noticed when I first got the V10 from my friend is the fact that when I was comparing, the secondary displays, light bleed is way more intense on the V10 than it is, as you guys can see, on the V20. And both of these are LCD displays, so just keep that in mind. One thing I also noticed is that when interacting with the secondary display on the lock screen, the V10 is actually smoother in its operation of that secondary display, whereas the V20 tends to have a bit of choppiness unless you start using it a bit more within that certain amount of time. One thing I do say is that when it comes to design of the phones overall, I like the V10 a bit more. It's just that classic LG look when it came to, having the buttons on the back. Also, it just looks more classy. It looks more like a phone that you would take to a business trip or something like that. It's more industrial, and it feels more like, a phone that you can drop a billion times and not have any real issues, especially due to these side rails right here, and not have the back pop off as easily when you drop it. One issue that I really do have with the V20, even though I really do love this design and I really do love this metal feel on the back, and the fact that you can still remove the battery, is that it's very easy for the back to pop off when you drop it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you can just put the battery back in, put the back on, and it'll be fine. But that's just pretty much it. Plus, it works easier for, components inside the phone to not be damaged as easily as, say, with the glass-backed phone or any sort of, embedded battery phone. Another thing is micro USB and USB Type-C. The bottoms of the phone are pretty much identical. The tops of the phone are pretty much the same as well. The backs of the phone, aside from the back mounted power button / fingerprint sensor, are pretty much identical as well. You got the laser autofocus color depth sensor on that side. You got laser autofocus on there. You have your LED flash right there. You also have your 16 megapixel f1.8 aperture. Let me see. Try to see. 16 megapixel f1.8 8 megapixel wide angle. On the front here, you have your two front-facing cameras. Both are 5 megapixel. One's wide angle, one's regular angle. And this is pretty much where LG started their dual camera. Well, not started legitimately, because technically the LG Optimus 3D was their first dual camera phone, but their first contemporary dual camera phone is what I could say. Yeah, that light bleed is ultra intense. I don't remember it being that intense on my V10 when I had mine, but nonetheless, it's actually, you could always turn that always on display off. As far as software goes, this does run Android 7.0 Nougat as well as this one. But the one thing you'll notice as a clear difference is that you can unlock the phone without having to without having to press the power button on the V20. And on the V10, you do actually have to press the power button and then tap the fingerprint sensor. But the fingerprint sensor is actually fairly fast. As you guys can see, I tap it, it goes to the home screen, no problem. As far as headphone quality goes, this is where LG stepped their game up with the V series, where they actually took audio seriously. Now, what I will say is that the V20 does stomp the V10 in terms of audio quality, but that's not to say the V10 is terrible. I do think the V10 does tend to sound a bit better than my Note 8. When it comes to sheer quality, the amp is not as loud. It's like a bit, it's not as loud, so you can't turn the volume up as much and get as much sound out of it. But, not sound. You can't drown out the environment around you with this phone as well as you can do with this phone. I did not mean to do that. I know it fucking open Power Director. This phone does better at that, and it doesn't sacrifice sound or overall quality. Doesn't distort. I haven't heard distortion as much on here, but it's apparent where it's less apparent on here depending on the headphones that you use. I switch between the AKG and headphones that come with your Samsung phone, your AKG tuned earbuds that come with your Samsung S8, S8 Plus, Note 8, and my Sennheiser IE800s between both phones. I prefer to use the IE800s with the V20, whereas the V10 I prefer to use the AKG buds with these. Not that the V20 can't drive the AKG ones, they do it better. I just felt to have a better experience overall using them on here because they just felt more suiting to them. As far as display goes, they both have the same size display, same, resolution, same aspect ratio. The only real difference is how bright does each get. And the V10 does get bright, but not as bright as the V20 gets and from what I can see, you can see a bit more on the V10 screen I'm using the Microsoft launcher. That's why you guys probably don't know what it is. You can see a bit more on the V20 without it completely blowing out the camera. And on the V10, you can also do the same as well. But as you guys can see, when it comes to the secondary display, the V20 secondary display shows up a bit darker and not as creamy gray or dark gray. So just keep that in mind. You could also, like I said, just shut off the always on display, secondary display if you want, when it comes to using it on like when the phone is off and stuff like that, and just primarily use it for when you're completely operating the phone. They do the same stuff. The only real difference is that the V20, the V20s is a bit bigger due to the fact that it doesn't have two cameras on the front. So it actually gives you more stuff to put up here, I guess. You get 5 here. You get the same amount. I guess they just made it so, I don't know. People said that you could put more up in the front, but I guess that's only really for notifications, because when it comes to the overall like layout of like each secondary display, it doesn't necessarily look any different. Say I opened an app or two here. Why did I say an app or two and I loaded up more than that? When you load up apps, the same amount of apps you can switch through on each phone with no problem. I'm already in Hangouts on there. These are my recent. Those are my recent apps. I'm sorry. There. These are my recent apps. You go here, you go here. I don't use BBM on my V20. I use it on my Note 8. So that's why it's on here. I used to use it on my V20, but I switched it to my Note 8 just because I wanted to try it out. But as you guys can see, overall performance, though, when it comes to sheer performance, when it comes to day-to-day tasks, the V10 doesn't necessarily lag as much as you'd think it would. And the V20, even due to its age as well, doesn't do that either. But what I will say is that the one difference you can see when it comes to like user interface is that when you open apps on the V10 and have apps open on the V20, the clear all button is at the top like it is in Nougat on your stock Android phones, whereas on here it's more like the G6 and it's on the bottom, which I ultimately prefer. I don't like having to reach up into the upper right corner to be able to clear apps, but at least you can do that. Camera, I haven't necessarily been able to test as much, but from what I can tell, the V10 does still perform very well as far as camera quality goes. Okay, so this is a low light shot here. As you guys can see, there's not really that much noise. There's nothing really like that. The only real issue there is that you could barely see what it says right there in the Dairy Queen ad right there. It says pumpkin pie. Whereas on the V20, I'm certain I took the same picture. I did. On the V20, you guys can clearly see that it does say that. It does do a bit better at doing that. But the one thing I say I prefer on the V10 compared to the V20 is the fact that when you go into your camera app, you go into your settings, your photo size can be at native aspect ratio and be at your full, camera resolution. Whereas even on like the Note 8 and the G6 and the V20, you have to be at a 4:3 aspect ratio to use your full camera's resolution. And both of these are 16 megapixels, by the way. I'll show you guys what I mean. Not my face. Okay, so as you guys can see in the photo size here, it says 4x3, 16 megapixels. You go in, you can't scroll up to get to like a 16x9, 16 megapixel mode. The most you can get with 16x9 is 12 megapixels. That might be due to the size of the sensor and not ultimately due to like they put more work into the V10 than the V20 when it comes to that. That ultimately may be the case. We'll see if the V30 offers that as well. If you could also use the full camera resolution at native resolution, but that's an 18:9 aspect ratio phone, so that might not be the case. One thing I do miss is the volume up and down buttons on the back alongside the power button. I think that was personally my favorite thing about LG phones due to the fact, if the Note 8 will stop doing that, that you wouldn't have to be like, oh, I turn the phone on and I have to use a whole entirely new finger, a different finger to toggle between my volume. Whereas on here, you could do, I keep thinking I could do that. Just lock, Christ. I can, just use one finger to do it. And you could easily do like a screenshot with one finger. Oh, I didn't even do it. There we go. By just positioning your finger like this and just pressing it down like that. And it works very well. And it's just easier to do that. Now also you can just rearrange your on-screen buttons to have quick memo at the bottom as well. So yeah, you can easily do it like that too. You can do this on the V20 as well. You can just switch Capture Plus with Q Slide and just be able to, take a screenshot like that, and it would work fairly well. I used Q Slide on here because it allows me to actually have the calculator as an option, which is no longer available on the V20, which sucks to me because I actually use Q Slide a lot when it comes to the calculator, which is another thing I use when it comes to the Edge display on the Note 8. Battery life, I'd say, is better on the V20, specifically because it has a bigger battery. 3,200 versus 3,000. When it comes to charging, the V10 does charge faster due to the fact that it has a smaller battery, but this has Quick Charge 2.0, this has Quick Charge 3.0. So I think they're pretty much on the same equal playing fields when it comes to that. But let's say I put it against my Note 8 as far as charging goes. I'm pretty sure this would charge faster because Samsung's adaptive fast charging is basically just Quick Charge 2.0 and not Quick Charge 3.0. So they would be on equal playing fields, this and the Note 8, which I'm recording with. I haven't gamed on here. I don't necessarily think that's going to be my focus when it comes to using the V10. I think it's just going to be a camera phone that I use to just like record videos and stuff like that. Which, when it comes to the sheer feature set of both cameras, the only real difference is they both have manual photo and video mode. But the one thing I say that the V20 has over the V10 is that you don't have focus peaking on the V10s. Oh, I started recording. You don't have focus peaking on the V10, so you can't see a green outline whenever you focus. As well as if you go into your audio, you don't have any way. You could choose which direction you wanted to focus on the audio, but you can't do like your gain, your noise cut filter, or I don't think you could do any high quality audio when it comes to that. You can indeed change your frame rate when it comes to doing it in HD, but when you change it to 4K, it goes back down to 30 frames per second. But you could also record in full HD 21:9 cinema, and you could also get 60 frames per second on there too. But steady recording goes off. So if you like steady recording a lot, just stay at 30 frames per second on any single video mode. You get that as well on the V20 as well. The only true difference is the fact that, as I said, you get those gain, low cut filter, and limiter controls, as well as being able to, direct your mics just like you can on the V10 and turn on the wind noise filter as well. As I said, as you guys can see here, there's the focus peaking, which the Note 8 actually does have as well, which is actually pretty cool. What it does is that it gives you a faint green out. You guys can probably see it a little bit. There's this faint green outline around here and also around my finger a little bit that it just gives you a point at what's in focus. So say I put my V10 right there, right? And I do a focus test, but I want it to just focus on the little Do SA box right there, right? It'll give you a green outline right there to show that the Mountain Dew logo is in focus. And nothing else is really as in focus as that. And that's pretty much what I like about what LG has done with their camera app. Everyone's else camera app just feels outdated whenever I use it, even when it comes to the V10, despite the fact that it really has the shortcoming of not having, those audio controls, not being able to do, hi-fi audio recording, which is okay because a lot of, the video app I use doesn't let you use high quality audio. So I'm fine with that right now, unless I just upload it straight to YouTube and it just works like that. Another thing, both phones have SD card slots. Up to 2 terabytes of storage is, supported. And now that 400 gigabyte micro SD card is out, I might actually get that. But I don't know if I want to put it in one of these phones or put it in my Shield. I really don't know yet. But yeah, when it comes down to it, obviously I'd say get the V20 over the V10, especially if you desire audio. The speakers on the bottom are pretty much equal. It's more rich and more clear on the V20, but they're both as loud. You can honestly hear as much through both, so it's whatever. I will say one thing though. Hold on real quick. The one thing I will say is when you plug in headphones in here, you don't get, like with the V20, you have a little bit of a give, like a little bit of a wiggle. You don't get that with the V10. Not that that's really like something that you should keep in mind, because it doesn't affect the audio quality of what comes out of the phone. But it is something I noticed when comparing my V20 to my Note 8, is that, as you guys can see, there's a little bit of a wiggle. And again, it's not something that's like, oh, I fear that my $800 headphones, even though I got them for $200, the headphone port will will break, the connector off or anything like that. I don't fear that at all, because due to these being $800, I doubt that would be the thing that would actually happen. But I'm pretty sure Sennheiser put quality first above everything in that matter. So I don't necessarily think that's an issue, but I just wanted to let you guys know that. Either way, for music, both are good options. If you don't like this light bleed that you could obviously see right here, get the V20 or just turn that off. Both have 64 gigs of onboard storage. Both have a slew of video features. And even then, those are overshadowed by, again, the V30, which I'm getting again soon in the coming days. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, this is my LG V10 versus V20 video. I didn't necessarily plan on doing this right away. I just wanted to let you guys know that I was getting both. And one thing I do notice with, the V10's fingerprint sensor is that due to it being used for a lot of times, it does seem to get shiny and like lose its like coating over it to protect it, but it doesn't, it doesn't make it so that it is worse to use and it won't register your finger. Same with the V20. The V20 is kind of having that as well, not to the same degree, but again, this works even faster than my Note 8's fingerprint scanner, so I don't necessarily worry about that. Okay, so that's it as far as this video goes. V10 versus V20. Let me know what you guys think. I probably will do a separate review on the V10 just so I can give you guys my full thoughts on what I feel about it still. Because it's a phone that I hold near and dear to my heart. So I just want to let you guys know that. But yeah, this is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening. See you later.